In this week's video, I'm super excited because I'm talking to you about something that I hear all the time that scares new drone pilots.
I can't see my drone.
Which is not being able to find their drone and not being able to fly it back to them. So in this week's video, I'm sharing with you two things. The first one is how to use the maps to fly your drone back to you super easily. This is the way I fly my drone back to me 99.9% of the time. And second, I'm going to be sharing with you how to use the return to home function with I see people making a lot of mistakes, and I'm going to share with you some of those mistakes and how to avoid them. And if you're new here, welcome! I'm Christine, and this is Create with CL, where I give away all of my secrets on what goes behind being a travel creator. And one of my tools is my drone. I think drones are so fun and so easy, so let's dive in. Today, I will be demonstrating for you with my Mavic Mini, because why not? I truly hate this controller. Make sure you get the Mavic Mini too. Ugh, so much better. Okay, let's use the map to fly the drone back to us. I have flown my drone out. It's 580 feet away and it's over in this direction. And what I'm going to do is a couple things. First, I'm going to turn on my grid lines. And what that means is I'm going to go to settings, and under settings, under camera, for the Mavic Mini, this is under advanced shooting, and I'm simply going to turn on the grid lines. And you can choose between the little dot, the X, all of them, you choose. I'm going to do an X because X marks the spot, and that will make it super easy to fly it back to me. Next, I'm going to look around. Just in the same way you cross the street and you look left and right, same thing with your drone. I am just going to do a little circle-y around me to make sure when I fly back to me, I'm not going to hit anything. And you can see right now, I'm pretty high up there. I'm 293 feet up. There are no trees, poles, etc. that are going to hit me. So I feel clear when I'm going to fly it back to me. The next step is I'm going to use the map. And on the bottom left, I'm going to simply tap the map. And you can see that my drone is pointed actually away from where I'm at. You can see that I'm over here. And to me, this is similar to looking at something like Google Maps. You can see where I'm located, you can see where my drone is at, and I'm simply going to turn my drone so it's facing me. And now you can see if I fly my drone straight, it's actually going to come directly back to me. And so I'm going to do two things. One, I'm going to fly the drone in this straight line back to me, but I'm never going to stop looking at the bottom left to make sure, even though I made sure nothing is around, I'm just going to make sure I'm not going to hit anything on the way back. So I'm using the map and I'm flying straight and I'm coming back to me. Oh my God, this is taking forever. And that's because I'm currently in the slowest setting. And when I fly my drone, I am always using a slow setting because you never want to give your viewer a headache. You want to do slow, cinematic, smooth footage, which I have a ton of info on that. Check the description below if you want to learn more about that with me. So I'm actually going to speed it up and I'm going to fly it in a faster setting. I'm going to start flying it back toward me. You can see me flying my drone back. I'm following that dot and I'm basically going to bring the drone directly above my blue dot, which is where I'm currently located. And once my drone is over my blue dot, there it is. Now I am going to flip back to the map, and using my grid line with X marks the spot, I'm literally going to put myself in the X and fly the drone down and right to me. Because of that X, it's helping me to have amazing aim and get my drone to fly directly to where I'm at. And so I'm bringing my drone down, I'm keeping the X right over my person because I'm going to hand catch my drone, and that's how I'm going to land my drone. And this is how I always land my drone. Bam! Okay, let's talk about return to home, which actually I needed to return to shade because whew, it's hot out here. Your girl's working hard. Cheers that like button. If you're getting some value out of this video, make sure you check the description and consider signing up for my email newsletter because there's tons of giveaways in there as well. But let's talk about return to home. And for the sake of this example, I think it's important to not hand launch and land my drone. So I placed it right over there, and let's take off and fly my drone out a little ways. Okay, so I've flown my drone out a little ways, but one of the things I'm going to do before I just hit the return to home button is I'm gonna go under settings and I'm gonna go under safety. And under safety, I'm going to change the auto return to home altitude. And right now, it varies by where you are on how high that should be. For me right now, I would say 200 feet is reasonable. Basically, you wanna make sure the altitude is high enough that you can clear everything around you and not hit a million things on the way back to you. So you wanna set a return to home altitude depending on where you are, just to make sure you clear things.
Go home.
And so once I've clicked the return to home button, another thing to consider that people don't do is keep your finger on the tap to cancel return to home. My drone is rising to the level I told it to, right? That 200 whatever feet to clear everything and come back to me. Bam! I'm sweaty. Let's take it into the house and talk about it. I'm also getting eaten by ants. Oh my goodness. Travel creator disasters!
Something super important happened here, aside from me finding air conditioning, and I want to break it down for you. Return to home works within a location. It's not perfectly precise to a pinpoint. It's close, but not perfectly precise. So here's a few things to consider. In the same way that I use the maps, you could see on the screen that I pointed the gimbal down so I could see where the drone was going. And because I had launched so close to a tree, the return to home was going to bring it back and land it on the tree. And so I'm glad I saw that. And so there's two things here. One, I had my finger over the cancel return to home button so that I could not just watch it go into the tree. I can't tell you how many people I've spoken to who've crashed their drones and they're like,
I saw it slow motion going to crash into the tree.
and I'm like, why didn't you press the cancel button? And they're like,
Oh yeah, I probably should have pressed the cancel button, huh?
have your finger hovering, ready to rock and roll.
Cancel, 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 cancel.
The other thing is I'm pointing the gimbal down and I can manually fly my drone while it's returning to home. You still have control over your drone. You're holding the controller. So in the end, I ended up manually flying my drone, which is why I ended up hand catching my drone, which is not what I originally intended, right? It was going to land on the sidewalk next to me. My suggestion for you is getting the drone to come near you. Use return to home to bring it near you, but cancel it and manually fly it the rest of the way. And you gotta do what works for you, but I'm suggesting this because depending on your situation, and I'll give you some examples, that might be what makes the most sense. So let's talk about examples. The first one, you might be on the beach, and let's say you're sitting on a beach blanket and your drone might return to home, but accidentally land on the sand next to you. Cleaning your drone sucks. I don't clean my drone. I probably should. That's not true. I keep the lens clean. That's very important. The rest of the thing is like the car. I don't really wash my car. What were we talking about? Oh yeah. So let's say you want the drone to land on your beach blanket and not on the sand. Use return to home to bring it near you and then manually fly it the rest of the way to get it perfectly onto the blanket so you don't gotta clean your drone afterwards. In the second example, you might be on a narrow pier, for example, with water all around you. Getting the drone to land onto one of the flat rocks versus just any rock is not exactly easy. So you might want to use the return to home to get it near you and then manually fly it onto a flat rock or hand catch it if that works for you. Which, by the way, if you want to learn to hand catch your drone, I have a video on that in the description below. Another example is if you've launched it from a boat. And let's say in this example, the boat is anchored. If the boat is anchored, then you're using return to home to get it near to you, and then you're flying it manually the rest of the way to hand catch your drone. But the boat is also a good example for something else. Let me share this with you. If you're on a boat, it has probably moved from point A to point B. And in this scenario, it's important to do two things. One is to update your return to home location. In other words, going under safety and changing your return to home location to where you have moved to. And you're literally just going to, like Google Maps, move your little pin over to where you are now. The second thing is you have probably, again, moved from A to B. So making sure when you're flying your drone, it hasn't reached its max distance. And so turning off max distance or setting it very high is really important so your drone just doesn't stop automatically. And if you want more info about these safety suggestions, I have a full video on that. Check the description below. But But I'm Christine. I'm here every week with new videos. I hope you learned something. Cheers that like button. If you haven't already, check the description. I'll see ya in the next adventure. Ciao.